So what a percentage is a number or ratio. So percentage is a number or ratio, meaning it can be a fraction. So it's a number or ratio expressed as a fraction of 100%. Expressed as a fraction of 100%. So when you're working with percentages, they can never go over 100%. Okay. In terms of like enlargements, like you can have 150% increase, but when you're just looking at a percentage won't be bigger than 100. So 100 is kind of the limit. So to calculate percentages to decimals and decimals to percentages, okay, vice versa, you can use your calculator or you can just move the decimal point. Okay. So if we're trying to make a percentage a decimal, you can do one of two things. The first is to calculate it using a fraction. So if we want to change 20% to a decimal, a fraction you're going to use is 100. So 100 goes on the bottom because out of 100 is how many percentages we deal with, like 100% all the time goes on the bottom. On the top, you take your percentage, which is 20. So in your calculator, okay, if you don't know that off the top of your head, it's totally fine. All you would do is 20 divided by 100, and you would get 0.2. So as a decimal, 20% is equal to 0.2. Now, if you don't like that method, you can always change the decimal location. So what that means is if you're working with 20%, there is a decimal at the end of the number. And to change a percentage to a decimal, you move the decimal to the left 2. So 1, 2, and it would be located in front. So you would get an answer of 0.2. So all you have to do is move the decimal to the left twice. And that is kind of your clue on how to solve it. So for the next one, 25.2%, if we were going to make that a decimal, the fastest way would just be to move the decimal to the left twice. And your new location would be 0.252. So you can use division if you want, or you can just move the decimal. Now, one thing to be careful of, 0.5%. Okay, it's very easy to think 50. A lot of the times when we see a half, we think 50%. But this is not 50%, it's half of 1%. So in decimal form, 0.5% would be 0.5%, not 50%. So anytime you're working with halves, it's very easy to put 0.5 or 50. In this case, it's 0.5%. So when we change that to a decimal, you're going to move it to the left twice, leaving you with 2 open spaces, which are the 2 zeros. So 0.005 is 0.5%. So just be careful. That kind of decimal percentage will always kind of mess people up because they see the 1/2 and they think 50. It's not 50, it's 0.5. Okay. So 3/4% as a decimal is 0.75%. Remember, you just take the 3/4, make it a decimal, and put a percent sign after it. To make that a decimal, again, you move it to the left twice, leaving you with those 2 open spaces. So 0.075, 2 open spaces, 0.0075 would be that as a decimal. Now remember, you can also do it as a fraction over 100, and that just takes time. So the goal is to do these problems in as less time as you have. So I want to use the fastest method, which is just moving the decimal. You can still divide it by 100 if you want. So in this case, I'm going to move it to the left, 1, 2. So my decimal is 0.2458. Okay. So anytime you have a percentage and you want to make it a decimal, remember all you're going to do is move the decimal to the left twice. Now, if you have a decimal and you want to make it a percent, you just do the opposite. So if I wanted to make 0.005 a percentage, I would move the decimal to the right. So when I'm going from percent to decimal, move it to the left twice. When I'm going from decimal to percent, I move it to the right twice. Or multiply by 100. So I could multiply this decimal by 100, and that would take me back up to the percentage. Okay. So some things to remember: fractions, they'll always add up to 100. A percentage is 100%. Okay. So these are kind of some word problems you might see. So it says, what is 12% of 98? There are two ways of thinking about these problems. I'm going to show you the formula first, and then you can use the formula if you like it, or use the shortcut. So the formula is over of equals percent over 100. So you might have seen that formula in Algebra 2 normally. So what is 12% of 98? So I'm going to use the formula first, and then I'll show you a shortcut when dealing with percentages. Okay, came back. The way that you would substitute, so when it says what is, the what is portion is the is part. Like, that sounds weird to say out loud. So what is, we don't know. So that problem, the is portion is going to be an X because we don't know what it is. It's unknown because it says what is, we don't know. So we put an X in the location of the is portion. Okay. Then remember, it's always percent over 100. So 100 is always going to be there. It's always going to be sitting there. We take the percentage in the problem and substitute it where we see the percent. So in our problem, we see 12%, which means when I see the percentage symbol, I'm going to leave it as just 12. I'm not going to put percent in there because since the fraction is over 100, we automatically know that it's a percentage. The of portion is the word after of. So it says of 98. So of 98, where we see the word of, we're going to replace it with 98. Again, this is not necessarily the fastest way to do this problem, but I will show you a method that is quick. So is over of equals percent over 100. That's kind of the guiding ratio and proportion. To solve for x, you cross multiply. So you're going to be left with x times 100, which is 100x. And then 98 times 12, which is 1,176. So when I divide both sides by 100, my x value is 11.76. So that is the method you could use, is over of equals percent over 100. If you don't like that and you want to use just kind of some common sense, you could just multiply. Okay, so you could use this, or when it says what is 12% of 98, the word of in math means multiply. So we would just take the percentage and multiply it to the number. So the first thing you have to do is change 12% to a decimal. So this would now be 0.12 because I would move it to the left twice. And then I'm going to multiply it to 98. And I would still get the same answer. So if you're trying to take a percentage of something, you can use this proportion, or you can just multiply the percent times the number. So both of these methods work. Sometimes this method is not what you're trying to find. So when you're just trying to find a percentage of a number, you can use the shortcut. Otherwise, I would use this one. Okay. So question number 2, it says 35 is what percent of 150? So this one's a little harder to do versus just multiplying. So I'm still going to use is over of equals a percent over 100. So when you're substituting, it says 35 is what percent of 150? So notice how it says 35 is. In the portion where it says is in your proportion, I'm going to replace is with 35. Because 35 is. Notice how it's next to the word is. Our fraction will still have 100 on the bottom. That's not going to change. Okay. And then it says what percent. So we are trying to calculate the percent. What percent? Which means in the percentage location, that's where our X value goes. Because we don't know what percent we're finding. We're trying to calculate it. And then on the bottom, the of portion, it says of 150. So where we see of in our fraction, we're going to substitute with 150. So the 100 is always going to be there. 100 is always there. And then you just kind of piece apart the problem. All right, to solve, you cross multiply. So 35 times 100 is 3,500. And then 150 times x is just 150x. Dividing both sides by 150 gives you 23.3 repeating. Now our answer is a percentage, so you don't multiply that number by 100. It's already a percentage because the answer is over 100. So your percentage would be 23.3 repeating percent. So you don't actually do anything with that decimal. You don't have to multiply it by 100 because it's already a fraction. It's already over the number 100. All right, so take a second. There are a few problems. There's 4 problems down at the bottom, so I'm going to give you a second to work through those 4. Number 1 does not have multiple choice, but that's okay. And then the rest are ACT practice. So we're going to work on 1 through 4, so I'll give you a minute to try those out, and then we'll go over the answers. All right, so let's go ahead and go over those answers. So number 1, the correct answer is 57.1%. Number 2 is C. Number 3 is also C. And number 4 is D. So let's go ahead and do these problems. They can be a little tricky. So it says if there are 35 people in class and 15 are boys, oh, that should say then, not that. There we go. Then what percentage represents the number of girls? So all you have to do is pay attention to how many people are in the class. So there's 35 total people. And when you break that down, for boys, there are 15. Well, to figure out how many girls there are, I would take 15 and subtract that into 30. So I know or 35. So I know that there are 20 girls. Okay, so boys plus girls would be total people. So that is 35 total people. And we're trying to figure out what percentage represents how many girls are in the class. So in this fraction, there are 20 total girls out of 35. That's how many girls are in class. You can use the proportion x over 100 if you want, because that will always change something into a percentage. Anything over 100 is a percentage. So you could do it this way and get 35x equals 2,000. And then when you divide 35x, your x answer would be 57.1. And since it's over 100, it's automatically a percentage. So you could calculate this way, or you could just take the ratio of girls to class and multiply that fraction by 100. Both of them give you the same answer, so it really just depends on how you prefer to solve the problem. So you can use a proportion. Anytime you have x over 100, that will give you a percentage. Or you can take the fraction of girls over total and multiply that by 100, and that will also give you the exact same percentage. So there's a couple different ways you can do percentages. It just depends on what you're comfortable with. Number 2, it says, given that 6% of A plus B equals 12% of B, which of the following must be true? So a lot of us don't like these questions because there's not really any numbers there for A or B. This is where you get free reign to solve the problem. So I'm going to first write the equation. So when it says 6%, 6% as a decimal is 0.06. So when I'm rewriting this formula, I'm going to put 0.06. The term of means multiply, so A plus B equals, and then it says 12%. Well, 12% as a decimal is 0.12 of B. That means multiply. So when I see the percent, 6%, I change that to a decimal. And then when I see 12%, I want to change that to a decimal as well. And then all you have to do is test your answer choices. So to solve this problem, I'm just going to use my answer choices. Jumping down to C, A equals B. Well, I'm going to make A and B both equal 1. So if I do that, I'm going to test my answer. 0.06 of 1 plus 1 equals 0.12 times 1. Well, this would be 0.06 times 2 to equal 0.12, and it does in fact equal. So you know that when A equals B, those equations match each other, like each part is the same. So what I would recommend on a problem like this, write your equation and then pick parameters for your values. So A is less than B, you could make A 1 and B 2. And then plug it in and test your answer choices. So to do these problems like this, set up the equation and then test your answer choices. Okay. Number 3, the cost of a tablet increased 25% from 2014 to 2015. In 2016, the cost of the tablet was a fourth less than the cost of 2014. By what percentage did the cost of the tablet decrease from 2015 to 2016? This problem in itself just makes your mind go crazy because they talk in percentages, then they talk in fractions. There's a lot going on, and I guarantee if this was on your ACT, you would be like, I'm just going to stop reading and guess. There's no need to guess. The first thing you need to do is have a price for the tablet because percentages can be a little weird if you don't have concrete ideas. So I made the tablet $100. That is a nice, easy number to work with percentages with because percentages add up to 100. So now we need to calculate the price. So I'm going to start in 2014. In 2014, the tablet was just $100 because, or whatever you chose for the tablet price. So in 2014, the tablet cost just a base $100. From 2014 to 2015, so now we're in the year 2015, the tablet increased 25%. Well, 25% of 100 is $25. It's a quarter. So now in 2015, the tablet is $125. So right here where it says the tablet increased 25% from 2014 to 2015, the 25% portion is $25. That's why I chose 100. It's a nice, easy number. Then 2016, it says that the tablet was a fourth less than 2014. Well, in 2014, it was 100. A fourth or a quarter of 100 is 25. So it went down $25. Now it's $75. So in 2016, the cost of the tablet went down. And you're trying to figure out the percentage of the tablet. So from here, the difference between 125 and 75 is $50. We know that this tablet went down $50, but it did not go down 50%. Half of 125 is not 75. So what you do is you take the difference and put it over the bigger number, which was 125. And then we have our X over 100. We're trying to find the percentage. So I'm going to cross multiply, giving me 125x equals 5,000. And when I divide by 5,000, I get 40. The number is already over 100, so by default, it is a percentage. So it is C. That problem can be a little tricky because you want to make sure that you're using the 2015 year to have it be a little bit easier and make a little more sense. Okay, so this is where we'll pause for today.